Hello and welcome to Your New Jersey. I'm Lisa Marie Falbo. On today's show, we'll walk and we'll talk with the Walk to Fight with Alzheimer's New Jersey, and we'll also learn to communicate with Renee Marino. But first, Jessica Geltz is the first female police officer to join the East Hanover Police Department since it was founded in 1928. East Hanover Police Chief Christopher Canizzo and Officer Jessica Geltz joins us now to tell us more. Jessica, I'll start with you. Congratulations, first of all. What inspired you to join the police force?
My father and grandfather were police officers in my hometown. And then I went to college for hospitality because I wanted to help people, enjoy their day-to-day lives, when they interact at restaurants, hotels, all those little businesses that come together and make a community. And while working in that, I felt like I wanted to do more to help people. And I wanted to serve my community more than just a good meal or a good night's stay at a hotel. And I really found that where I thrived and where I enjoyed working the most was when I was hands-on with people. It's so important to help people on their worst days. It makes the most difference when you have the best people there. And I thought the best I could do is try to be that helpful person.
It absolutely makes a difference. And it's worth noting that when you were growing up, you weren't even here in the Garden State. College led you to this area.
Yes. I grew up in Wyomissing, Pennsylvania.
Talk about the steps you needed to get to where you are today.
So I actually graduated in the height of COVID in 2021 with my degree in hospitality, tourism, restaurant management, and sports management, and an associate's as well in event planning. And it was during that whole shutdown when tourism and restaurants and everything shut down and you would see what was such an essential worker that I felt that I wanted to do more to help when we were at, some of our lowest times as as a country, as a community. And I really just kind of sat at the dinner table one day and went, I'm going to apply to be a police officer. And the moment I decided that, and I told maybe 3 people, they all said, oh my God, you want to go to East Hanover? They have the best, they have the coolest people, their community is great. Everything about the town, everyone ranted and raved about it. And I had been local, but not East Hanover local. So I started venturing more throughout Morris County to East Hanover, and I fell in love, being in the area, meeting the people, and I got lucky. I saw right when I had started looking was the end of the application period for East Hanover, and I put in an application. I was in the middle of figuring out, getting my driver's license switched because that's a requirement, and I needed to get it done during COVID, and it was so many little things that kind of led me to this of preparing for the physical test and going over written material for the big, 100-something, 300-something question test that we took, the written test, just to start off the whole process. So it was a lot of little things, but I didn't study for it in college.
And Chief, how has she enhanced the department? Like I said at the top of this segment, East Hanover has never had a female police officer in its 95-year history. So what has she brought to the table that's so different?
Community relations. I mean, a male can only go so far. I'm a police officer 28 years. I've been involved in numerous incidents and community affairs, and you really don't have that connection with a male to female, especially when you talk to a victim of a violence. It can only go so far. I try to be gentle, but what I hear from the female community victims is it's an essential it's a need. I know there's a 30 for 30 out there in 2030. They're looking for 30% of females in the law enforcement community. There's a growing demand for it. I'm on board. That's what we're seeing here with Jessica.
What do you think has changed in the area's culture that has made women interested in police work?
I just think it's that search for connection and to be heard and seen on both ends. I feel that, when I talked, as Chief said, when speaking to females, when I talk to males, it's not always the easiest to relate to someone, but when it comes to females, there's that certain safety, that feeling of needing to feel heard, and not always can a female feel heard, and that's something that's developing in our our world today. We see every day in the news things coming up and the change that's happening, and I think it's so important that now women are seeing that what was traditionally seen as a male role is now, you think of police officer and you don't instantly see a male in uniform. And I think that's so important that when you think of that and you think of these male dominated fields, that it's no longer feeling that way. And I don't think I've ever felt that way coming to work here or in other jobs I've had where I was also the only female. It's always been something that I think is absolutely, we're taking steps forward, and I see the growth coming. I saw it in my academy class. I see it with females I know in my personal life. They're starting to pique interest in, hey, I can take on these roles. These aren't something I'm not capable of.
Well, Chris knows this about me. I worked in sports for many, many years, and I too was the only female in the room. And I never thought of it as a detriment. I always thought of it as an asset. And I feel like you echo that as well.
Thank you.
Good point, Lisa.
What type of community initiatives is the East Hanover Police Department currently involved in?
If you glance in, you'll see what we're wearing. We joined in with a blue badge. It's for autism awareness, and I'm big on that. Fortunately or unfortunately, we have the task of being out and about, and we're on center stage, whether we're going to a big box store like Best Buy or Costco in East Hanover or Target on a call, where it gains a lot of attention. People see us, and so we're backing the awareness of not only autism with the badge, we also wear the pink in October for cancer awareness. We're big on that. So we're keeping our eye on the prize with all this, and it touches every life.
Yeah, policing just seems to be more than just, going to a 911 call, right? I feel like, Chris, you've done such a good job in just advocating for everybody in the community, whether it was through COVID or individual families that needed care. You and the force are always there, and I know that's very important to you.
I'm big on this. It's I tell my guys and girls and employees, it's about the victim. Look at it from the victim's eyes, and then you'll be so motivated to do such a good job. And that's what we do. And I feel blessed to have such not only a great police department, I have a good township mayor. Panulo allows us to work in a professional manner, gives us essential tools to operate effectively.
Officer Geltz, Chief Canizzo, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Lise. We'll do it again.
Ken Zantz, President and CEO of Alzheimer's New Jersey, is here to talk about their Walk to Fight events happening on October 7th and 22nd. These walks help raise awareness and funds for Alzheimer's care, support, and research around the Garden State. Ken, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I can't think of a better time of year than the fall to have walks like this. So talk about how excited you are about your October ones.
It's so great to have the community come together and show their support for families in New Jersey who are impacted by Alzheimer's disease. So now we're just looking forward to our walk in Bridgewater and then our walk at Bergen Community College in Paramus. And that's our last one coming up at the end of October, the end of the month.
How many people annually attend your walks between the spring and fall?
A couple of thousand, probably about 5,000 or so walkers between all of the walks. And the nice thing about these events is that as I said before, it's a real coming together of the community. We have a connection theme. We've been carrying that theme through the whole year. And so much of connection is so important to people with Alzheimer's disease, connecting together as a community, but connecting to people with Alzheimer's disease, knowing that sometimes with this disease, because memory fades, but the emotion doesn't. And so continuing to connect in those simple little ways, showing your love, sharing a story, sharing music, those simple little acts of connection mean so much for the person with Alzheimer's disease. And on a bigger scale, they mean so much for the community, for raising funds and raising awareness about the importance of fighting Alzheimer's disease in our state.
You know what I find really special about your walks, and obviously we've known each other, worked together for many years, is that people that have had loved ones pass away from this disease 5, 10, 20 years ago still engage in your walks. Because like you said, that sense of community and carrying out the memory of their loved one, but also a lot of caregivers that have to deal with this disease become ambassadors. And ambassadors for you because of the support that you provide.
They do. I mean, that's exactly as you said it. And that is what's so important because, those families who recognize that for their loved ones, for their friends, for their family members, unfortunately, they've passed and it's too late, but they want to stay connected to the cause because they want to make sure that families that come next have more options, have better care options, and of course, what we all want, which is one day a way to slow this disease down and cure it.
And it's so great that you have these programs because if you look at the statistics of how many people are affected by Alzheimer's disease here in the Garden State, whether it's them themselves being diagnosed and then the caregiver's impact, it's a staggering number.
It is a staggering number. It's over 600,000 people because we say, and it is true, that the disease is so hard to manage. It takes an emotional and a physical toll on the caregiver. So it is an incredible impact emotionally, from a medical standpoint and from a financial standpoint, because most caregivers are paying out of pocket. We don't have a system right now in this country which can really provide financial reimbursement to caregivers for things like adult daycare, which can be so important and help the caregiver get respite, in-home care if the diagnosis is just Alzheimer's disease isn't paid for. So it's lots and lots of out-of-pocket expenses. So, and that impacts not only the family, but if you do the multiplication, it impacts our healthcare system. It in fact impacts our economy. So yes, you're exactly right. It has a huge impact, bigger than I think people think.
Does Alzheimer's New Jersey provide resources for caregivers to maybe apply for aid or a grant?
We have a respite care and wellness program. The purpose of that program is to teach caregivers about the value of taking care of themselves. So through the generosity of our donors, individual donors and corporate and private family foundations, we have dollars that are available so that caregivers through an application process can get a small grant to at least sample respite in the community, see the value, and the hope is that they'll then be able to continue on their own, once that small grant runs out. So it's really meant to be sort of seed money as part of the education process to help caregivers get a little bit of a break. And that can be so important because we know that anecdotally, caregivers tend to decease the person with Alzheimer's disease from the physical and emotional turmoil of care. It becomes really difficult. Stress-related illnesses like heart attack and stroke are not uncommon for caregivers, directly related to caring for someone who's completely dependent on the caregiver for their needs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, if there's no opportunity for a break.
But this is why your events are so important, because it's funding programs like the one you just mentioned.
Right, exactly. And our support groups and our education programs that teach caregivers about the disease, caregivers tell us if they only knew. So, understanding the disease, anticipating what will come next, learning how to deal with changes in behavior, changes in communication that are often the result of the person's Alzheimer's disease, those are invaluable for caregivers because it allows caregivers to plan, anticipate. There's nothing worse than having to deal with a situation or make a quick decision when you haven't put any plans in place. It happens to all of us. That's why everybody says, well, don't wait till the deadline, start ahead of time. Well, it's the same thing with this disease. There's a lot of decisions that need to be made, and you want to make them with the most information possible and start to make those plans as early as possible so you're not caught in a crisis.
Ken, thank you so much for coming on here to not only spread awareness about your upcoming walks, but about the very important mission of Alzheimer's New Jersey. Where can people find out more about the walks and how to participate?
So the best place is our website. It's alznj.org. Not only can they find out information about the upcoming walks, but lots of information about the disease, about our programs. We even have education programs that we've recorded that caregivers can sign in with a password and access those webinars. So there's so much information on our website, alznj.org, and then our 800 number, our 888 helpline number is there so that caregivers can call us and talk live, and we can help them through this disease.
Ken, as always, thank you so much for all that you do for the Alzheimer's community in the Garden State. We'll see you at the walks.
Well, yeah, and thank you for having me here. We always appreciate the opportunity and your help in raising awareness and spreading the word and educating the public on a broader basis on, the impact of this disease and how important what they can do is to help.
Renee Marino of Linden is a professional communication coach, TEDx speaker, and best-selling author, and she's here to share with us her keys to communication. Renee, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here, Lisa.
And we are so happy to have you here. Tell us about what it is that you do as a professional communication coach.
I believe that everything starts with communication, and when we learn to master this skill, we become limitless. In my own life, my highest of highs and my lowest of lows have all been tied to communication. And I realize that I've always had a love and obsession for communication. And I believe that started from my upbringing as a gal who grew up in a tight-knit Italian-American family. You could often find us sitting around the table, eating, laughing, sometimes arguing, but nonetheless communicating. And those are some of the greatest memories of my life. So as I got older and I had my career as a professional actress on Broadway and film and TV, I started to see how communication affects us all and how it really is a ground level skill. So in 2019, I was performing in Pretty Woman, the musical on Broadway, and I decided that I wanted to write a book about communication. And since the topic's so broad, I started thinking about what part of communication I wanted it to be about. And then I realized that in this day and age of digital technology, so many of us are distracted and we have so many different channels with which to communicate that you can sometimes see families at a restaurant not even talking because they have their heads down in a digital device. So that's when the light bulb went off and I said, this is what the book needs to be about. And I wrote the book, and then I decided that I wanted to activate my other gifts of being an author, a speaker, and a coach. And that's when I decided to take a course to become a communication coach. And I started coaching people, helping them first to get on camera and be themselves with confidence. And now I speak to companies, universities, and organizations, helping them to communicate effectively.
You do so much, and we'll touch on your successes in front of the camera and on Broadway in a little bit. But first, I want to know, what are some of your key pieces to healthy communication that you share with your clients?
Step one, Lisa, is always communication with self. Checking in with yourself every morning when you wake up before you pick up your phone to start checking into other people's lives, and waking up every day and asking yourself, how am I feeling? Then take 5 to 10 minutes, write the answer, pen to paper, because what we write, we invite. One of the other most crucial components to being what I call a master communicator is being a complete listener. And that means listening, not just to respond and tell you about my thoughts and opinions, but to sit back and give the person speaking an open platform to be heard. And the third most important step is talking from the heart. Understanding that communication does not mean confrontation. And what I see so much in the world right now, clients that I work with, is that they're not speaking up in their lives. They're not addressing situations in their personal and professional relationships because they believe that if they speak up, that means they're being confrontational, and they are not one and the same. And by believing they are, we are denying ourselves beautiful opportunities for connection.
So I want our viewers to know, because I'm sure they look very familiar to you. Talk about your career pre-communication coaching and how that's led to your success.
One of the most pivotal moments in my career came in 2013. I was performing on Broadway in Jersey Boys, playing the role of Frankie Valli's wife, Mary Delgado. It was a dream come true. This true Jersey girl getting to be in a show that's about where I come from. It was magical. And one Sunday matinee performance, I'm on stage singing "My Boyfriend's Back and He's Gonna Be in Trouble" with my fellow castmates, and staring back at me from the audience, 10 rows back, was the legend himself, Clint Eastwood. We got word that they were going to be doing a film version of the musical, and Clint Eastwood is going to be the director. And truth be told, like many of you, I discounted myself immediately. I said, oh, they're going to hire A-list celebrities out of Los Angeles to play these roles, and I've never done TV or film before in my life, so I'm not even going to think about it. A few days later, they start calling people in from our cast to audition, and they were looking for a Mary Delgado. So at this point, I thought to myself, well, it would be cool even to get a chance to audition for the film. So I contact my agent and I say, hey, let's see if we can get me an appointment to audition for Mary Delgado. Weeks go by, Lisa. Every girl I know on Broadway is getting an appointment for the role of Mary Delgado, but me. And my agent calls me one Thursday night and she says, Renee, I'm so sorry. I don't know what the problem is, but they said they won't see you for the role of Mary, but they'll give you an appointment for one of the smaller roles, one of the angels who sings My Boyfriend's Back. And I remember hanging up the phone and feeling my feelings for a while and just thinking, I tried everything I could. I'm still going to go in and audition for one of the angels. The day of the audition, I'm speaking with the casting director and we're in a great conversation. And then he says, Renee, would you like to sing the song first or read the scene? And in that moment, Lisa, I heard this quiet little voice within me say, you have to do this. It feels too right. And I looked at the casting director and I said, you know, Jeff, I was really hoping to come in and read for the role of Mary Delgado. And he looks at me and he goes, I was just thinking the same thing. And I was like, amazing, awesome. So I do the audition that day, leave there feeling complete gratitude because I got the chance. That's all I wanted. I go back to my 8 shows a week on Broadway. 2 weeks later, my agent calls me and she says, Renee, you're Mary Delgado in the movie. Clint Eastwood loves you. And I was like, woo! I mean, it was the most surreal moment of my life. I get there the first day. I'm in the shuttle on the way to set, and talk about feeling like you're jumping off of a cliff. Again, the butterflies are flying in my stomach, and I heard that quiet voice say, Renee, you know what you're doing. Clint Eastwood hired you. Trust in your talent and leap. And I walk through the doors that day and everyone says, welcome, Renee. And I meet Clint. And that first day, Lisa, and every day that followed, I would sit and eat lunch with Clint Eastwood and pick his brain like a sponge. Clint, what was it like when you were growing up? What was it like when you first got in the business? What does that camera shot mean? Because for me, I knew that I was in the presence of greatness and I wanted to absorb it and be, as I call it, a complete listener to elevate and use this information to make me a better person, a better performer, but more than that, a better human being. He taught me life lessons that I carry with me today. A month into the film, I'm eating lunch once again because that's my favorite thing to do is eat. And it's Clint, the producer of the film, and myself. And they're talking about how Clint knew he wanted me for the role when he saw me perform on Broadway. I put my fork down and I said, do you guys want to hear a funny story? I never got an appointment to audition for Mary Delgado. The only reason I got to read those scenes is because I opened up my big mouth in the room and asked. And the two of them look at each other and they say, what do you mean? We requested you. We said, we want the girl from the Broadway show to come into this audition. Imagine my surprise. And I came to find out that day that there was a middle person, casting associate, juggling a few films at once and just dropped the ball on having me come in to audition. And that story for me, Lisa, is such a pure representation of the power of communication, and how when we have the ability and the confidence to speak up, we open the door to limitless opportunities.
Wow. I'm sure our viewers, as well as myself, had major goosebumps through that whole time.
When we learn to speak up and ask for what we want from a place of love and grace, we're able to seize all the opportunities in our lives that are meant for us.
For people watching that are interested in booking you for their communication needs, where can they find you?
Yes, come find me at reneemarino.com. And there you can read up about everything that I'm doing. You can learn about my courses, and you can reach out to me just to say hi. I love, love, love connecting.
Thank you so much, Renee.
Thank you so much. So great to see you.
Thank you for joining me on another episode of Your New Jersey. I'm Lisa Marie Falbo. We'll see you back here next week.